What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to cover an industry or a sector that I think can do really well over the next 3 to 5 years. As India's private companies do a lot of capex, this company is a direct beneficiary of it. So the sector I'm talking about is the pre-engineered building sector or the PEB sector in India. So overall the sector is very consolidated. There are like 3 to 4 big players in it, and we're going to cover the top 3 players. And the top 3 players are the players that are growing the fastest, adding capacity at the fastest rate. So that is my criteria of top 3 companies. So in the video, we'll understand what is PEB exactly, what are the advantages or disadvantages versus your traditional RCC construction. Then we'll do a complete peer-to-peer analysis of the top 3 players. We look at the revenue, margins, a guidance for FY27, order book, valuations, all of it. So with that, let's start the video. Right. So before we understand what are PEBs, firstly understand how your traditional construction works. Right. So here I have the workflow of how a traditional steel construction works. First is the client planning and project. Like basically, if I'm an industrial, I want to build a new steel building, I'll basically hire a consultant, industry consultant, who will then bring out the structural parameters, process requirements, building methodology, basically like a consultant to a building project. Then he will do the designing, the engineering, and what are the requirements for that project. Then the company that is building the project, that will bring out a tender and competitive bidding based on the requirements that the consultant has given. Then the contract will be awarded to a construction company. Then what the construction company will do, either the construction company will buy the steel itself, or it will tell the ordering company that you order the steel, I'll pay you vagara. And then what happens next is there's the uncontrolled on-site fabrication, then there's the erection and component assembly, and then finally the building is handover. Now the issue with this is that you can see the entire value chain is very fragmented, right? Just because I have to build a building, I have to I have to hire the consultant. The consultant will design it, build the plans, vagara. Then I have to give it to another contractor. The contractor will build it. Then there's the raw material issue, vagara. As you can see from here, the industry consultant, vagara mein issue kya hai? There's a issue of deflecting responsibility, right? Because there are so many players involved, they can just be like, अच्छा ये इशू हो गया क्या, तो मेरा इशू नहीं है, एक्चुअली इशू कंसल्टेंट का है, कंसल्टेंट ने ये किया. और इफ देयर इज रॉ मटेरियल वॉलिटिलिटी, दे कैन बी लाइक, नो, द स्टील कंपनी gave us prices, gave us high prices, so we have to increase the clause, all of that. So there's a lot of moving factors in constructing basically a normal building. And even if you see general contractor, there's the passes on cost and there's the zero accountability or issue. Now PB buildings solve this exact problem, right? Let's say if you are a client, let's say CG Power, you want to build a new transformer plant, right? What you will do is you will go to Interarch, you will be like, see, these are my requirements, I want to build this kV of transformers, let me know. Now what Interarch will do, Interarch will go there, Interarch will assess the conditions, it will design like this, these are your requirements, this is a plant that you need. Then it will build the entire PB in its in-house. Then it will go there, it will erect it, and then it will finally commission the plant, right? This process will understand in detail. But for now, the issue is that there are multiple players involved in traditional RCC, whereas PEB I can just go to one customer, he will do everything, right? From designing, constructing, everything the PEB guy will do. So this is where we understand what kind of problem the PEB players are solving, right? Now as we move on, we'll see what are the other problems that PEB buildings solve. PEB sector can grow at approximately 15 to 18% CAGR, which is very good. The main reasons behind this are the increasing capex that is done by private players, right? And why private players? Because government usually doesn't go for PEB. Government will go for your normal EPC companies, your traditional RCC companies, right? So another key metric to track here is the private capex or the PMI. If you look at the advantages of PEB, first is time to market. This is the ultimate mode, right? इसमें क्या होता है, the current civil work and factory production allows client to save up to 50% of the time. सो अब बस ये इमेजिन करो, अगर आपको कौन सी भी बिल्डिंग या आपको कोई नया धंधा शुरू करना है, राइट? सो इफ यू डू ट्रेडिशनल आरसीसी कंस्ट्रक्शन, इट विल टेक यू 2 years, बट और 1 year लेट्स से. बट इफ यू डू पीईबी, you'll कंप्लीट दैट इन 6 months. सो लेट्स से अगर आपने किसी तरीके से लोन उठाया है, so you can start repaying that loan faster, you can start producing more, you can start getting revenue faster, right? So just imagine if you have RCC and if you have traditional constructing and you have PEB, you'll be like, why will I waste the 6 months? 6 months में मेरे को अगर जल्दी मेरी फैक्ट्री अप एंड रनिंग हो रही है, I can produce more, I can basically earn earlier and I can earn more. As we saw in time value of money as well, the more earlier I can start my project, the better it is. And another advantage is that PEBs are approximately 20 to 30% more cheaper than a traditional RCC construction. So you can see you can get the project cheaper, you can build it more faster. So these are the kind of problems that PEB is solving. First, it is solving that it is an integrated value chain provider. Like if I want to build a project, I'll just go to Interarch. I'll be like, see, I need this project. I'll get it done faster, 50% more faster. I'll get it done cheaper. So all in all, PEB makes more sense to me, right? Now that we looked at the advantages of pre-engineered buildings, we'll understand what exactly pre-engineered buildings are, right? So if you look at this photo right here, you'll basically understand that pre-engineered buildings are nothing but a skeleton of the structure that you want to build. So let's say you want to build a warehouse, right? What pre-engineered buildings do is provide you a skeleton on top of which you can build your entire warehouse. So basically what the company does is that the company builds this steel structure in-house in the company's factory, then it goes to the customer where the project is to be built, then it lays this foundation and then it does the final erection of this as well. So now that we understood the different parts to this, we'll now connect the dots, right? So first we have your, let's say, CG power, you are doing capex, you want to build a new transformer plant. You will go to Interarch को आप बोलोगे कि मुझे ये specifications का plan चाहिए. Interarch will be like, okay, Interarch will analyze it, Interarch will design a plan for you, then Interarch will order all the raw materials, and then what Interarch will do, Interarch will basically build a skeleton of the structure that you want. It will build the structure in-house. It will come to you after the structure is done. It will be like, see, my structure is done. It is now ready for erections. You'll do the erection and then your basically plant will go live. You can do all of this, like you'll save time, you'll save money as well, and you don't have to वो झंझट नहीं चाहिए कि भाई इसको बुलाओ उसको बुलाओ इससे कोऑर्डिनेट करो वगैरह. You just hire Interarch does all the work for you. That's basically the kind of problem that the PEB sector in India is solving. Now that we understood what are the advantages, we'll also look at who are the clients of these companies and where the growth is coming from. So the first and most demand driver is data centers, right? It requires massive load-bearing clear spans to support HVAC and clear racks. This is driving the heavy steel structures boom. Now, let's say I'm a Adani or a Reliance वगैरह, I want to build a data center, right? Data center build करने में, उसकी capacity build करने में बहुत time लगता है. So I'll just be like, hey Interarch, can you build this data center for me? Now it won't build the entire data structure from A to Z. It will just build the storage. You know, like the building जो traditional RCC बना दी थी, it will only build the building. It won't make the entire data center. It will only basically make like the warehouse or the building in which the servers, the racks, the cooling and all is stored. Then there's renewables and semiconductor. These are like one of the biggest growth drivers for this company. Facilities like Micro, Sun and Tata Electronics require massive rapid deployment, clean rooms, driving insulated sandwich panel demand. So we saw that all of the end users as well, right? Data centers are doing well, renewables and semiconductors are doing well. So data centers, renewables and PLI. We'll just look at the clientele of company. We have EPACK Prefab here. We'll just look at the clientele of the company. So company basically gets orders from your place like Vari Energies, Premium Energy, CG Power, Aditya Birla Group. All of these companies are doing heavy capital expenditure, and that is why the PEB or your pre-engineered building companies, they are direct beneficiary of it. Because come to think of it, if I can get my building erected faster, more cheaper, and bina janjat ke, then I will always go for PEB. So this is the type of clientele that these companies have. Now coming to the next part, we'll look at the caveats to the industry, right? So one thing that you have to know in this industry is that it is directly related to the private capex that the players are doing, right? You can't rely on government because government doesn't really do PEB, it does RCC only. So you consistently have to track, like overall you can get a sense of the market whether private capex हो रहा है, नहीं हो रहा है, delay हो रहा है. Example. Next thing you have to look at it is capacity expansion and the order inflows. As I mentioned in the last video, this is also a capital good company, and in this we specifically have to look for order inflows rather than unexecuted order book. Unexecuted order book, that is also a key metric, but order inflow is a key metric, as I mentioned last time, because execution timeline is low, right? As we saw, 6 months mein if my building is getting erected, I can't look at order book ek saal ka, because ek saal mein that order book is getting executed two times. So I have to look at the order inflows on a quarterly basis. Second point is that we have to see the capacity expansions and the current capacities of these companies, because what type of orders they can take or what type of companies they can serve is a direct reflection of their capacity. If let's say CG Power comes to me and he's like, I need to build a 765 kV ka transformer, do you have the capacity? I'm like, if I have the capacity, then only can I take the order. But if I don't have the capacity, if my plants are running at full utilization, then I can't take the order, right? So your capacity expansion directly shows how much revenue or order capability the company has. So these were the two most important things that you look for in a PB company. That is your order inflows that shows your future outlook, and capacity expansion or the current capacity that shows whether you are capable of serving those orders. So coming to that, we look at the capacity timelines of this all of these three players. So first is Interarch Products. So I'll just give a brief about the companies. Interarch is basically like the most oldest player in this world, most trusted. EPACK Prefab is, in my opinion, the highest growing company, because even if you look at in the last 3 or 4 years, the company has been growing north of 30%. Then there's M&B Engineering. M&B Engineering, it is a more export focused business because it has licenses and certifications to do projects in America and Canada. That is also where Interarch is trying to go. So M&B is basically like the more export oriented, and that is why it has higher margins. So these are the small things you have to look out for when doing peer-to-peer analysis. So as we come to this, we just see companies operate at near peak utilization. Whenever you look at a company, you look at the capacity. These capacities, if the demand outlook is very good as it is in companies, these factories will operate at 80 to 85% utilization. So, and management clearly states that they can't take orders that they can't deliver. As I mentioned before, if I don't have the capacity, I won't be able to take the order. Therefore, revenue growth is mathematically constrained by installed capacity. Therefore, the capacity expansion, these plans, if the capacity expansion gets delayed, then my revenue for that quarter will get delayed as well, which will lead to bad results. And you can connect the dots. So this is something that you have to pay close attention to along with the order book. So first, if we look at Interarch Products, we have the current capacity of 180k metric tons per annum. In July 2026 or the Q2 of FY27, they are coming up with their Gujarat PEB plant that has a revenue potential of up to 2,500 crores of total PEB. Then there's July August of Q2 FY27. इसमें company setting up a heavy structure plant in Andhra Pradesh. So this heavy structure, as we saw in data center का thing as well, data centers are driving the mostly heavy steel structures boom. So उसके लिए company has set up a new capacity to cater to this demand. Now इधर से you can get a sense कि see, if company is setting up a capacity for a for a specific industry, you can just see कि unless the company is very sure कि इधर से demand sustained है, demand अच्छा आ रहा है, then only company will set a capacity, or company won't set up a new capacity for that, right? Then next is March and April of 2027, that is Q4 of FY27. Then there's the second phase of the Andhra Pradesh plant is going live. So FY27 में if you see, the company is doing HSS में aggressive ramp up, and the new Gujarat plant. The new Gujarat plant, say they can get around 2,500 crores of PEB, and then your HSS also they can add approximately 40k metric ton per annum. So around 40,000 metric ton per annum into your average realizations gives us approximately 400 to 500 crores of revenue. So either say we understood that by adding these new capacities, the company can approximately add 400 to 500 crores of revenue, assuming that the capacities are running at 80 to 85% utilization. Then next we look at EPACK Prefab. It has current capacity of 1,47,000 MTPA. इसमें the company recently in Q4 FY26 the company added. The thing is, just because you add a capacity doesn't mean that you can run at a full potential, right? If I add a capacity, let's say today, I will be able to achieve its full utilization 1-2 quarter बाद, right? Just because आज setup हो गया, मेरे P&L में अभी वो revenue नहीं आएगा, it will come a couple of quarters later. So in Q4 of FY26 the company added this plant right here, 14,000 metric ton per annum, and uska utilization, as the management is saying, its utilization is already up and running. And then October November 2026, that is Q3 FY27 में, there's another 11,000 metric ton per annum plant coming in. And March of 2027, that is Q4 FY27 में, there's a 50,000 metric ton per annum plant coming, and the P&L impact can be seen in FY28. So if you look at it, FY27 में company is doing an absolute capacity expansion of almost 41% as compared to its current capacity. So this is also one mistake that I see investors making, is that they look at the absolute capacity of the company and not the incremental capacity that they're adding, right? You need to see the capacity expansion, year-on-year growth kitni hai, because that will tell you how much growth in revenue can you do. Like let's say you have 1000 MTPA की capacity, but if you're going to 10x that capacity, I can tell that going forward company has the potential to 10x the revenue. Whether that is true or not, we'll have to see. But if the company has a capacity of let's say 1 lakh MTPA, but company is only adding 10% capacity, I'll be like, bro, you're only going to add increase revenue by 10% going forward, because you can't, अगर capacity नहीं है तो revenue कैसे बढ़ाओगे आप, right? Your revenue will remain stagnant, and that is what the market cares about. The market actually cares about how much growth you are doing, not the absolute number. So as you can see, the company is approximately adding what, around 40 to 50,000 capacity on a base of 1,80,000. So that's like around 30% capacity adding. Whereas if you look at it, EPAC is adding approximately 40% more capacity. So going forward, EPAC can grow at a pace faster than Interarch, given its capacity is 100% utilized, order inflows are good, and all that. If you look at M&B Engineering, M&B Engineering also there's two segments. I won't deep dive into it, but your Phoenix is basically like the PEB capacity, and Proflex is a separate division. So Proflex का भी won't cover, but Sanand का एक plant है, उधर they are doing a capacity expansion of 20,000 metric ton per annum that is going live in Q2. That is crucial for the North American export orders, as we saw. September 2026, that is Q2 of FY27 में Proflex is also coming up live. So basically M&B Engineering का इतना बड़ा capex नहीं है, but the plants were also not as much utilization as these two players, because it is more export oriented, and due to tariffs and all, the business was affected. So the company is only doing a 20,000 MTP ka capex, which is approximately adding around 200 to 250 crores of revenue. If you look at it, around 75,000 ke base pay company is adding 20,000, so that's approximately around 25% more capacity. So just to summarize this section, what we saw is that we want to give attention to the incremental capacity or the year-on-year growth in capacity that the company is doing, not the absolute number of capacity the company has. The more you increase your capacity, the more is your potential to grow revenue at that pace. In this example, EPAC is adding 40% more capacity, so it has a possibility that going forward it will increase its revenue by 40%, whereas M&B is only increasing by around 20-25%. This is the main key conclusion, and something that you should definitely look for in PB companies. Now next, let's look at the segment mix and VAP. VAP basically means value added products, right? As we saw in every company, as we move more specialized, more highly complex products, we can get more margin. Same thing, as you do more heavy steel structures, that will have better margins, because more complexity, clients are willing to pay more, you will get more products. And even in EPACK Prefab, it has the insulated sandwich panel that is used for clean rooms and cold storage, right? So one of the main reasons why EPACK Prefab ke results were not good in the previous quarter was because its sandwich panel line ran at a very low 25% utilization, but now they're targeting around 75 to 80% utilization in FY27 to add approximately 70 to 90 crores. Even if you look at the results of the peers, M&B Engineering results were not that good, like 15% good, 16% revenue growth, but margin contraction was a very big negative. I think in Q4, EPACK Prefab had the best results out of all the PB companies. I think 40% growth, around 42% revenue growth, and also 51% year-on-year profit growth. Despite all of the raw material volatility, company had a bit of operating leverage. And Interarch had a pretty very not a good Q4, like almost 8% revenue growth and like 5% PAT degrowth. So Q4 में EPAC had the best results. If you see Interarch का management कैसा है, it always under promises and kind of like very conservative management, whereas EPAC का management is थोड़ा सा aggressive. Even if you see in previous 2 quarters, EPAC guided for approximately 30% plus growth. Even now it's guiding 30% plus growth, but the kind of tone that the management has now, or the kind of delivery vagara, you can understand, like this is something that you can only do when you track the company for multiple quarters. You understand कि Interarch की थोड़ी सी conservative management है, whereas EPAC की थोड़ी सी aggressive management है. Now coming back to transcript and guidance, FY26 में company had given a guide. Company did almost 900 crores of revenue, but company had given a revenue guidance of approximately 20%. So that is clearly a beat. That is where you can understand the conservative guidance, right? Company had given 20% guidance, but company did 30%. So conservative है थोड़ी सी. We had guided to approximately 1720 crores, revised to 1850 crores, and did 1900 crores. The faster we set up capacity, our scope of getting more orders is far higher. As I said, the more capacity you add, the more ability to take higher orders and translate into revenue. better margins will come from North America market, risk is less and payments are either advanced or against LC. So FY27 का guidance management has given approximately 15%, but internal target is 2,200 crores. So I think if the outlook improves, I think company can do 20% growth आराम से, because even if 15% दिया है, the kind of order book inflows, as we'll see in the next section, the kind of order book inflows that the company has, I think it can do good 20%. Now that we look at EPACK Prefab, like it has two businesses, as I mentioned, insulated sandwich panel and your prefab business. And this is an engine that is 30% growth engine. So isme EPACK is clearly the winner. You can see EPACK is adding more capacity. And why company is guiding to grow at 30% is because company capacity expansion भी उतना कर रही है, right? Why Interarch is guiding for 15-20% growth is because वो capacity expansion भी 20-25% से कर रहा है. EPACK Prefab is doing a 40% capacity expansion. That is why it is able to do a 30% growth. And margins will be in the range bound of 10.5 to 11%. And one thing that was really good is that operating cash flow of the company, right? Now I think the video is getting too long, but I'll cover this in a separate video sometime. Why we look at working capital and cash flows for these companies. And FY27 my company has given approximately 30% growth guidance of 1950 crores. And a margin outlook, stable margins, PAT expected to improve at 6.5 as the company, finance cost कम होता है, interest, debt वगैरह कम होता है. If you look at M&B Engineering, they are confident of doing a top line growth of approximately 25%. Now, इसमें क्या है, the management has not given a clear margin guidance. That is a red flag, because if you're one of the players which has the highest margin in the industry and you're not giving guidance, so estimates वगैरह करने में it becomes a very tricky job. And most importantly, what it signals is that the management itself is uncertain about the margins. Then if I have players like EPACK Prefab where I can see the business outlook or the future outlook is good, then I won't go for a company like M&B Engineering, right? So now let's finally come to valuations. Now the formula I've used for valuing the company on a forward basis is your market cap divided by the estimated price to earning. So there's this base case, bull case and bear case. In the base case, we'll assume that the company achieves management guidance, and on that basis, EPACK PEB is available at 15 times earnings, Interarch is available at 18 times earnings, and M&B Engineering is available at 15 times earnings. Now, you might think that M&B Engineering is the most cheap. No, M&B Engineering is not the cheapest. It is the more fairly valued. Why? Because business में uncertainty भी है. You're not growing at the fastest, therefore you are not the cheapest. You're just fairly valued. The cheapest I think is EPACK Prefab. Why? Because it is growing the fastest. Margin commentary better है. Order inflows are also good. Demand outlook is also good, and plus it is available at a cheaper valuation than Interarch. In this case, we can confidently say that EPACK is cheaper than Interarch, but M&B Engineering is not cheap. It is just fairly valued. Now let's look at the most important metric, that is your order book. So if we see Q4 FY26 में company had approximately 30% order inflows. That is why I was like Interarch can easily grow at 15-20% going forward. EPACK Prefab ka it had approximately 18% growth, but the thing is after its Q4 results, company had a lot of order inflows. So in the con call also, management said that we couldn't close the orders before Q4, but we did close it after Q4. And M&B Engineering ka weakest performance tha around 12%. And if we see total FY26 order inflows, Interarch ka again grew by approximately 30%. EPACK ka grew by 22% and iska grew by 28%. Now the unexecuted order book, it is up 26% and it is up 20%, and M&B ka is up 35%. So this is a good thing for M&B Engineering. Now let's look at the targeted inflows for FY27. Interarch is guiding for a closing for a order inflows of approximately 2,200 to 2,400 crores. Now order inflows and revenue conversion is mostly the same, because company is guiding for approximately 2,200 crores revenue. वैसे भी उतना ही order flow आएगा. जैसे मैंने start में explain किया, जितना company में order flow आएगा उतना ही revenue में convert होगा. Because in these companies they usually have one times book to bill ratio. And EPACK Prefab is guiding 2,000 crores to sustain 30% revenue growth, which is vital. And it is 1800 required for 25% targeted growth. So what can you monitor on a quarterly basis, we'll understand towards the end of the video. But for now, the company is maintaining one times book to bill. It is maintaining 8 to 9 months visibility, and Phoenix ka volume growth dependency hai. So yeah, as I mentioned, in the PEB sector, the execution cycle is merely 6 to 9 months. Therefore, Interarch's massive Q4 inflow of 32% year on year and unexecuted order book of 1700 crores guarantees their aggressive 2100 to 2200 revenue guidance for FY27. Let's look at the final verdict, right? Final verdict, I think the top most winner is EPACK Prefab based on the execution and valuation arbitrage as well. See, Interarch is basically what growing the fastest, adding capacity the fastest, and still it is cheaper. Then obviously EPACK Prefab is the winner, but the winner has to be decided on a quarterly basis. If in Q1 of FY27 EPACK says that we can't grow by 25, we can't grow by 30%, we'll grow by 20%, and Interarch says we will grow by 25%, then Interarch will become the winner. So these are the things I have to track on a quarterly basis. That is why the idea of long-term investing doesn't sit right with me, because we live in a world where there are constant disruptions and all. But so that's a different topic. So I personally think that EPACK Prefab comes first, Interarch comes second, and M&B Engineering, for now it's a bit avoid, because the demand outlook or the con call attended, the con call didn't seem as good as these two companies. So EPACK Prefab based on valuation point of view, and you can see this entire sector is very undervalued right now, right? Because you can see there are companies that are trading at 80 times earnings in the market, and there are companies like these 30 times growth engine that is available at 15 times earnings. So these companies are very undervalued right now, and I think the best thing you can do is just buy and sit with these companies, right? कभी ना कभी if the execution comes, if the company का growth rate अच्छा होता है, then you can see a strong re-rating in the stocks as well. Now that we understood the final investment verdict, we'll move to the conclusion of the video. So just to summarize everything we've covered in this video today, first we understood how traditional construction happens, how your basically RCC building is done, what kind of problems pre-engineered building is solving, वो झंझट नहीं है, इसको बुलाओ उसको बुलाओ, then आपका खर्चा बच रहा है, you can construct the building in 50% less time, 20-30% cheaper. So so PEB is basically a no-brainer. You will always use that. Second, we saw that it is directly linked to private capex of companies. So the more active you are in the market, the more you'll understand if companies are doing capex or not, or if the capacity expansion ka jo pace hai, that is slowing down. That is something that you have to track. The capacity expansion may be the year-on-year growth or the incremental increase in capacity in percentage, not just absolutely. Then we saw at why we look at order inflows. As I mentioned in the last video as well, we look at the order inflows and we also look at the order book, but more importance is given to the order inflows every quarter. Then we understood why EPACK Prefab seems to be the best player in this quarter. Again, I'm repeating, these things change on a quarterly basis. So quarterly basis, we have to track if EPACK is the winner, right? If you see next quarter may your Interarch is becoming the winner, then you'll move your capital allocation from EPACK to Interarch. As simple as that. So these are the key metrics that you have to track. So with these key metrics to track, I hope you guys liked the video, found it informative. Now you actually know how to study the PEB buildings, what are the key metrics that you have to look for in PEB companies, and you can analyze and track these companies from now on. I hope you liked the video, found it informative, and if you did, make sure to like the video, comment down below what was your favorite part of the analysis, or if you have any more input, and also subscribe to the channel for more such analysis. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Thank you.